Hello, welcome to Great Books Unlocked. This is our first Books in Coffee edition. I'm glad you're here. This isn't a lecture, and you don't have to be a literature expert or a guru of some sort of genre or author. One thing I've learned is that great books can be very intimidating. They're long, the language or the grammar, it can be chunky or unfamiliar. You've maybe been told in school how you're supposed to think about the story, what the right way to view the plot or the characters or some different events. We're going to slow this down and we're going to have some coffee and we're going to talk about books. Now, some of your favorite authors or people that you have read in the great book genre may be people that Herman Melville or the Odyssey, Jane Austen, Dickens, Shakespeare. You have maybe read some of those and really liked parts of it or really liked them all. Great books, as a title, is a really broad umbrella. And mostly, my point is to get people to really like books that have an enduring quality to them, whether it's the message, whether it's getting them to look at a situation differently. We think of them as great books or classics that we would read over and over again. But what makes them classics? What makes them unique? Most of the time, authors help us understand different parts of ourselves, whether they're talking about ambition, courage, failure, morality, science, or human nature. All these different parts, we see ourselves in the story when we read it. And it enlightens us and it causes us to ponder about different things in our life or different current events that are happening. Sometimes we see things in books that other people completely don't see, and that's okay. We all have our own opinion, we all have our own perspectives. And whether you're reading the Moby Dick and wondering what purpose or what symbol the great white whale is, it can be translated or seen in many different ways. It's think of it as a symbol or a something that's supposed to signify some large thing to chase or something that's never attainable. As you can see, some books get into a lot of deep philosophy. You don't have to. You can just read it for the whale and the shipping adventure. But why should you join us? Why? You don't have to tackle 500 or 600 page classics all by yourself. This community turns it into a journey. Whatever books you might be reading one at a time. You might be reading 5 or 10 different books. However you like to sample it and enjoy it, it's all good. But one thing I've really noticed when I'm reading great books and when I'm talking to different people, 10 different people can read the chapter 10 different ways. And invariably, someone will see something you totally missed. And that's the value in learning together and talking about different parts of the book. Because as we connect with literature, we are going to touch on so many different parts together, whether it's history, philosophy, religion, politics, human nature, behavior, leadership, adventure. Great books touch on so many of these different topics. And we do not have an entrance exam. You don't need to be a really strong reader in any of these. We'll take it one step at a time. A lot of people I know, they get into the great books by reading The Hobbit, and then they go into The Lord of the Rings. And there's a big difference between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings has a lot more metaphors and it has a lot longer sentence structures, but it's a tipping point that gets you to really see great authors intent on stretching you and seeing things from different perspectives. So you don't have to have read any different books. You just have to be curious and be willing to change, being willing to investigate. My whole goal with this is building lifelong readers, not checking boxes, but finding people who really enjoy reading. If you are able to do that, you will have a hobby or whether or something that you enjoy for the rest of your life because these books change us and they become parts of us. Now I'm going to talk about 3 different topics on what makes a great book. Okay. So the first one is I'd like some of you to text me or ask me a question about what makes a great book. The second one, what book were you forced to read at a young age and you've never really gotten over it? Third, why are difficult books worth all that work? So I'll give you a minute to think about it. Number 1, what makes a book great? Number 2, what book were you forced to read too young? Number 3, are difficult books worth the work? My perspective, what makes a book great? I never really liked Moby Dick. I thought it was long. I thought it was cumbersome. I thought it just there was so many tangents. But as I've read it through the years on and off, it's become one of my favorite books. And not because it became easy, but because of the way the author wrote. He laughs at himself, he laughs at other people, and he uses so many metaphors. It's like it's like a riddle. A lot of it is a riddle, and then a big part of it is just very clear and very open, where you know exactly what he's talking about, but he does it in such a unique and funny way. That's mine, but you can have your own. Number 2, were you forced to read a book that you really hated and it gave you a different perspective of great books? When I was in high school, I was forced to read Lord of the Flies, and I didn't like it then, and I'm not sure I really like it now. I don't like books where there's cruelty. Cruelty is part of the human experience, though, isn't it? And it is a mirror on us as society, the things that happen in the great book in some of those books like Lord of the Flies, and how those juveniles turned on each other and what the dynamics of that were. And you'll see memes about the conch shell and different parts of it because they're repeatable events in history and in different groups of people when you get a lot of negativity in the situation. Number 3, are great books worth the work? I'm going to talk about Moby Dick again. I struggled through it the first couple times I went through it, and I really, really disliked it. I've come to the point now that I can read because I have a map in my mind. Generally, I think sometimes you have to read some of these books once or twice, and then by the time you've got it, you know where the author is going to, and then you can take it one step at a time with him, and you're not trying to put all the different pieces together because they're in your mind already. So are difficult books worth the read? I think they are. They give us a glimpse into the past, they give us a glimpse into the future, and they help us see ourselves and other people in new light. Because of that, I think they provide incredible perspective and wealth to us. We don't make books less intelligent. We give readers enough content to get inside of them. So my goal is not to break down every single book that I review or I go over it. My goal is to take a chapter or maybe 2 chapters and then touch on the highlight and give my perspective. So then when you're going through it, you're reading it and you're thinking about some of the things, or you could be disagreeing with some of the things I've said in there, but it gives you some perspective. And then you become, it becomes easier to get through the chapter, and then you take away more from that. So those were our three topics right there. And now I'm going to talk about 5 stories that are in the news right now. If you have been on social media at all, if you've been to the movies, you have heard about The Odyssey. The Odyssey is having a major revival right now because of Christopher Nolan's film. And they're saying that readers are turning to Homer and other Greek classics. And the Odyssey has been increase in sales 76% in 2026. That could, so my question is, can a movie cause you to be more interested in the text? I know a few people that saw Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and because the Lord of the Rings was so complex, they delved into the book and they realized the book is even more complex than the Lord of the Rings, the movie. But they stayed the course and they felt like they really understood Tolkien a lot more. Number 2, schools are debating what belongs in the literary canon in the AI era. So Los Angeles Times recently interviewed teachers about what students should read as reading rates continue to decline. And because of AI, because they've never learned to read, because they're not interested. And so that is something that's really on my heart as a tutor, because I feel that literacy is so critical for us as a society. And a lot of the teachers are going to books that have been written in the last 20 and 30 years and avoiding ones that are 100 to 200 years old. And because the grammar and the language is harder. So should every educated person have a core group of books they read, or is that something of a from a bygone era? It's up to you. Houston schools are putting novels, including the classics, back at the center of reading. So it says here on this news article that Houston's ISD is requiring 25 novels across grades 3 through 7, including Don Quixote and Great Gatsby. So some of those aren't really long, but there's a lot more going on than just the text. And so you read it a few times, right? So what do we lose when we stop reading great books? That's a great question. Even if they're hard to read, if they're hard to understand, what do we lose when we stop reading them all together? Here's something interesting. Agatha Christie, she wrote novels, and she is being, there is a Read Christie 2026 challenge right now. And the August selection is By the Pricking of My Thumbs. And it's interesting because it's 50 years from her death. And you can go and research that online and look a little bit more into it. But Agatha Christie is considered one of the greats. She's not always considered one of the great books because it's relatively recent in terms of time span, but she's definitely one of the great authors of our time. So why did you unlock the book today that you have never seen before? What did you unlock today that is going to help you to become a better reader and a better reader who asks questions and tries to understand things? I would say Lord of the Rings is one of the books that I continually ask questions and I try to find answers. I'm not sure there's distinct, specific answers, but it causes you to think critically and develop long-term critical thinking skills that impact the rest of your life. So if you could pick any book in the world and say, this is the book I'm going to tackle by the end of 2026, I would love it if you put it in the comments, or if you put it in, if you would document that and let me know. I would love to hear it. I'd love to know why. Thanks for a maiden voyage on Books and Coffee, and I hope to see you again soon.